Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Laura, and we are on day 3 of our cruise on board P&O's Aurora. This cruise is sailing over New Year and today is New Year's Eve, so we are very excited to know what the celebrations will involve.
Today we're in the first of our 2 ports on this cruise. We are docked in Hamburg and we'll be staying here overnight for the New Year's Eve celebrations. If you'd like to see what else we get up to on this cruise, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the videos.
Despite the fact that when we got back to our cabin last night, the air conditioning had come back on, it was no longer on when we woke up. We had both woken up in the night, really uncomfortable and hot on numerous occasions. And once again, there was just no air in the cabin at all. It was really, really stuffy. So the first thing we did was go to visit reception.
It was pretty much the same message again from reception. They knew that the air conditioning was going to be off from a certain time this morning and it would be back on again this evening at some point. We obviously weren't too impressed with that. Again, this was planned maintenance that they hadn't told us about. And it just does get incredibly stuffy in an inside cabin when there's no way of getting any air into it.
We didn't want to let this ruin our day. And as we were getting off the ship anyway, we were happy to leave it in the hands of reception and the maintenance team and just hoped it would all be sorted by the time we got back to the ship, because we would really like to spend a decent amount of time tonight getting ready for the New Year's Eve celebrations.
We met Tom and Don for breakfast up in the buffet. We just had quite a quick breakfast. I had some cereal and a chocolate muffin. I do always enjoy a muffin on a P&O ship.
And I had omelette for breakfast. I was really excited when I saw there was no queue at the omelette man, so I jumped straight in there. It was really nice. While we were in there, it got busier and busier, so we definitely picked a good time to go in.
As Tom and Don have been to Hamburg a few times, we sort of asked them for a little bit of help really and advice on where to go, so they took us to show us a couple of the sites. We were docked just opposite the fish market, and on their recommendation we decided not to get the shuttle into the city centre and to walk, because otherwise we were going to miss the first thing that we wanted to see.
We basically walked along the river. It was quite a straight, easy route and quite flat, so an easy one to do, or so you'd think. We passed through a little market, which was a fruit market, etc. And it seemed to be coming to the end of the time and closing. This was about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it is a Sunday and the Sunday trading laws here are quite strict, so we're assuming that they have to shut essentially.
As we were walking along the front, we noticed a U-boat and there was a museum there, so I was having a look to see what time it opened at, and we were on a bridge which had 2 totally different levels of it, which I didn't notice. So
it had like a road and a curb, just to give you an idea of the levels.
It was a bit bigger than a curb as well. I just totally missed the footing and ended up falling over. Now, if you've watched our Virtuosa vlogs, you will know that this is not uncommon for me to do. So luckily this time I didn't break an elbow.
We don't know that, but no, we assume not. But I'm going to sound really cool now, but I'm a little bit gutted that I missed it, because I was looking at something totally different and I just heard this almighty clatter and turned around and Lizzie was already on the floor. So yeah, missed getting some great footage of that fall. The landmark that we wanted to visit that we would have missed if we'd have got on the shuttle bus was the Elbe Tunnel. Lizzie's read all about this, but we'd looked it up before we came, and it's kind of, I suppose, one of the main sites that you're going to want to see when you're in Hamburg. And we actually really enjoyed visiting this. It was really interesting to see. You go down now and you can either use a passenger lift or you can use what they used to transport the cars down into the tunnel, which is a little bit of an old-fashioned lift with a wooden door. And it's really interesting to see how narrow as well those lifts are. But we went down in that lift and walked the full length of it out to the other side where the dock area is, and then we kind of just turned around and came back. But it was really interesting to see how clean and tidy it was in there and how much of a good condition it had been kept in.
After we left the tunnel, we then carried on walking and we walked towards St Michael's Church. We were absolutely amazed by what it was like inside the church. They'd still got the Christmas decorations up, beautiful Christmas tree, nativity scene, and it was just very ornate, which surprised us a little bit with how, again, clean it was in there. However, it was very busy in there because a couple of tours off other cruise ships had just arrived. You can pay to go up the tower or into the crypt, but we decided not to do that this time. We always say things when we're in ports because we know we'll probably end up back here again at some point.
We then just carried on walking through the city. We walked along a street with some very expensive shops, which none of them were open because, again, those Sunday trading laws are in place. And we headed towards the town hall area and then out and around the large lake.
While we've been out and about walking, it has rained a couple of times, but luckily it hasn't been sustained. So there'd be a shower and then it would stop. The temperatures have been quite pleasant, so it's not been too cold.
We then wanted to do something traditionally German, I suppose. So headed for a beer in like a beer hall type place. This was somewhere that had been recommended in Paul and Carol's videos from when they were in Hamburg. So Tom led the way and took us there.
When we entered, they just asked us to wait a second to see if there was a table. Lots of bookings were already in place there, but we did get given a table as long as we were going to be finished within 90 minutes, which we knew wouldn't be an issue for us. Most of the venue was set up ready for New Year's Eve, and it looked like it would be great for celebrating in.
So we sat in there for a little bit. We had a beer each, which I'm no fan of, but we soldiered through. And we also had some large German sausages, which we did enjoy. We really liked the atmosphere in this venue. We could tell that maybe on a normal Sunday there would be sort of more going on, but as it was New Year's Eve, there were clearly other plans in place for later on.
We then just had a wander around one of the shopping centres, and here you could use the toilets. Something we've noticed while we've been in Hamburg is that if you need to go to the toilet, you have to pay basically for them 60 cents, 50 cents.
Yes.
But it's worth it if you need to go to the toilet. So
yeah, and the ones in this main shopping centre, actually, if you do pay the 50 cents, you get a voucher to use off other things of a purchase essentially in the shopping centre, but none of the shops were open, so it was no good.
We then got the shuttle bus back to the ship. Now, we didn't know the exact point of where it was, but we worked it out and jumped on. Because we are select price on this, that was part of our fare, but if you're a saver fare, it was £5 for one way.
When we got back to the port area, there was sort of like a viewing area on top of the port building, so we took the opportunity to go up there and take some photos of the ship. The views weren't great, there was a crane in action and things like that, so we never seemed to manage to get brilliant photos, but we did our best. And yeah, then we popped back into the building and boarded the ship quite quickly. It was quite a smooth process.
We were planning on going back to the cabin quite soon because we wanted to get ready for the evening, but we stopped at Raffles first for a quick drink and a chat. And then we entered our cabin, and guess what? There's no aircon.
We headed back down to reception again and went to, this time actually it was a different member of staff on reception that spoke to us, but he did seem to know about the issue, and essentially they tried to sort of fob us off again and say, you know, it'll come on later. But there was just no way we could get ready in this cabin in the current conditions. So we spoke to them and kind of insisted really that something was done and something was resolved. It took a little bit of time. There were lots of back and forth and going to different people. What they said they'd try to do at this point was arrange us a contingency cabin for us to get ready in for the evening.
They asked us to go back to our cabin and wait, which obviously wasn't great because it's hot in here, so we had to prop the door open again with the chair. They said they'd call us within 20 minutes, and 40 minutes later we get a phone call. They basically said that they were still trying to source us a different cabin to be able to use to get ready. At that point then there was also a knock on the door with maintenance, and maintenance came in, and he seemed quite surprised that there was no aircon in the cabin when he came in to check it.
It was starting to get a bit late now, so at this point we did need to start getting ready because we'd been hanging around for a long time, and we both wanted to make ourselves look nice for New Year's Eve. So we started going in the shower and things like that, and it was probably like an hour later when we finally did get a phone call from reception telling us that they had arranged a cabin for us to use. But by this point we were part way through getting ready,
and while we were getting ready we did hear the sound of the aircon coming back on. Obviously it takes a while then for the cabin to cool down because it's so warm in here, but we have high hopes for the rest of the evening.
Carmen's has actually been shut this cruise until today because of some of the work that needed to be done in there following that bad weather that we've mentioned previously. So Pulse were going to be performing in there, and they do a few different show times, but what that means is that we can squeeze a show in before our 8:30 dinner sit-in. So we popped into Carmen's to see them, and we found a seat quite easily. And our drinks order was actually taken quite quickly also.
It was just after 7 o'clock when we came into the venue, which was a similar type of time to everybody else. So everyone's drink orders all got taken at the same time. And it took a little bit of time for the bar staff then to get the drink back out to us. Well, I say a little bit of time, about half an hour, which is the longest wait by far we've had on the ship for anything. Usually you get it within a couple of minutes. It was then time to head down to dinner, and it was a gala dinner because of it being New Year's Eve. We were excited for the dinner tonight, and when we sat down at the table, we were offered a glass of red or white wine straight away. This wine was complimentary, which didn't really matter to us because we're on a drinks package, but it's a nice gesture and it's especially good for you if you're not on a drinks package.
As this was the gala night, we were treated to an amuse-bouche before our meal. This was like a one of those small like shot glass drinks that they'd give you before the meals on a P&O cruise. It was like a tomatoey type soup, like a cold tomato soup basically. For starter this evening, I had the terrine.
And I had the haggis, which I really enjoyed. After the starters, there was a sorbet to cleanse our palates, and it was a Care Royale one, which was actually really tasty.
It was actually. We said that it's probably the nicest one of these sorbets we've ever had. For my main, I had a fish dish, which was interestingly served with like little crisps on the plate, but I did enjoy that, it was nice.
And I had the lamb, which was absolutely delicious, and I could have eaten more of it. It was then dessert time, and I again had cheese plate because I was interested to see if it was much different than a normal one, and it was slightly different, but not a big massive difference.
You had that different piece of like cracker thing, didn't you? And I had the dark and milk chocolate teardrop, which was okay. The inside of it had a bit too much gelatine in it, so it was a bit bouncy, shall we say. We
also got some chocolates at the end of dinner, which were stars with like truffle inside.
Yeah.
They were really nice actually. And then we did our usual little routine now that we seem to have, of picking up a drink from Champions and heading down to the theatre.
In the theatre tonight, the Bluejays were performing. They do sort of 50s and 60s music, so it's a bit of like rock and roll, that kind of thing. And we were interested to see this because we hadn't seen one of their shows before on a ship.
They were very talented, full of energy, and really kept the audience engaged. And actually we really enjoyed it. Even though you would say the music isn't what we would usually listen to, the way they performed it made you want to watch them.
We were then, I suppose, heading for the main event. It was time to head outside to watch the fireworks in Hamburg, ready for New Year. Now, we needed to go back to our cabin and get our winter coats to do this because it is quite cold. And then we managed to find a decent spot out by the terrace pool, and we had quite a good view of the festivities.
The fireworks were going before midnight, but at midnight it was quite extraordinary, the amount of them, and they were still going a couple of hours later.
Yeah.
So they clearly love fireworks here on New Year's Eve.
We did also, out by the pool, P&O had put out a little 2024 display. It was light up 2024, and there was a bit of pyro on board too, which was good fun.
Everybody outside was full of the joys of the new year, and there was dancing, etc., but it started to quieten down because of it being cold. We then headed inside to Masquerade, where the party would carry on, and it was absolutely heaving. We were so lucky that we got a table because lots of people didn't manage it, but it was, I can't even describe how busy it was.
I've never seen that venue have so many people in it before. It was insane. At 1 a.m. then we re-celebrated New Year because it would be New Year in the UK. So we did another countdown and did another big cheer, which was really good fun. And then we just spent the night dancing away, had probably a few too many drinks, but we really enjoyed ourselves in there. It was really good atmosphere and everybody was having a great time.
It was really busy in there up until about 3:30, to be honest. And even when we left, there were still a few people sat in there just having a chat and carrying on with finishing off their drinks that they'd got. We overall today have had a really good day. We've enjoyed the time on board and we enjoyed having a little look around Hamburg. We would be interested to come back to Hamburg again when the shops are open, just to see if it makes it busier around the city. But it was a real shame that we couldn't get ready in a more comfortable environment for what we were looking forward to as a big night out. And it did put a little bit of a dampener on it at the beginning, but we wouldn't let it ruin our time.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click the thumbs up to give this video a like, and if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments below. Also, please do make sure you subscribe to our channel, and you can follow us on social media. We're Sisters on the Seas.